Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This is going to be my new Iron Man video, Marvel Phase 4, the Avengers What If trailer. So we'll break it down, there are a bunch of Easter eggs, and I'll talk about what's going on with Iron Man coming back in the MCU in the twisty ways that they're using to accomplish that. Comic-Con is also happening next week. I'll be doing videos for that, so be sure to subscribe to get all those videos. We'll do a new Amazon giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and let me know how you want them to bring Iron Man back in Marvel Phase 4 without having to bring him back to life. So starting at the beginning, number 5, everyone wants to know when Iron Man is going to show up in the MCU again and how he'll show up, because Kevin Feige, the Russos, the writers of Avengers Endgame have all been pretty clear on the same story point. Iron Man died during Avengers Endgame. They're not going to undo that sacrifice by just bringing him right back to life. Like, they're not going to use an Infinity Gauntlet to snap him back to life. So their options for Iron Man appearing in new Marvel movies in the Disney Plus series gets a little sci-fi, a little weird. A while ago, Jeff Goldblum let slip that Iron Man was featured during the Marvel What If series. This is the clip of him talking about that.
Hey. We're talking about it, in fact, I hope so. I love Taika Waititi, he's a great director and a friend of mine. So I hope so, but I played the part again a couple of days ago. I went to the Disney Studios and I recorded the Grandmaster's voice for an episode of a show that's going to be on Disney Plus called What If, where it's an animated version of all the characters we know and love from Marvel. And this episode included the Grandmaster and Iron Man, so Robert Downey will do a voice in that, and Korg, Taika Waititi had already recorded his voice for that. So yeah, I enjoyed for a couple hours. I enjoyed doing that again. So the Grandmaster is as well.
Based on what Marvel is doing with the What If series on Disney Plus, it sounds like they're starting with the multiverse alternate reality explainer as a way to get characters back. That's not the only way they bring Robert Downey Jr. back, but according to Jeff Goldblum, it just seems like it's one of the ways that they're trying to bring him back. Marvel has been pretty open about how the multiverse is so critical to their Marvel Phase 4 stories like Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness. It's literally in the title of that movie. What If was originally just a comic book narrated by the Watcher having fun with the concept, what if major comic book battle happened in a different way? Usually it's just one key difference, but that leads to a vastly different outcome. Sometimes it was a monkey's paw situation and things go terribly for whoever the protagonist is, and sometimes it just gets super cool and super weird. The MCU Marvel What If episodes so far, just based on the trailer footage and the episodes they've told us about, are a little more straightforward, at least during Season 1. So number 4, this is what Robert Downey Jr. had to say so far about coming back as Iron Man, and this is him talking about coming back fully in live-action MCU movies, like coming back in a big Avengers movie. If you don't remember, this is him talking about this on Joe Rogan, with Joe Rogan trying to get him to come back.
Is the door to Iron Man totally closed? Because I don't believe it is.
Oh.
You guys can go through time now. You can go. You already opened up that door.
Well, let me ask you the question. If I pick the jersey back up and put it on, wouldn't you feel a little bit like,
No.
crap?
No.
Oh.
Here's what I think.
All right.
They go through a few semi-lackluster Avengers movies without you. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Here's the scene. There's a moment where the world's fate is at stake, and they realize they need a super genius. And then they figure out how to restart that time machine. Come on, man.
Is that
The audience sees you when you step out of that thing.
is this your? And you want a little arc on it too? Because if this is your idea, then you got to show up for it too.
I'll do it. I'll show up. What do I have to do?
I don't know.
I'll do whatever I have to do.
We all have to do whatever Kevin
I'll
Feige
hold
said.
the thing. I'll hold the clap thing. Do they still have that? Clap.
They do. They
I'll
do.
hold that
It's
thing.
digital.
I'll hold that digital thing. I'll do it. But the way people would freak out if you came back.
So the way Robert Downey Jr. makes it sound, he's taking an indefinite hiatus from the big Marvel movies, just in general right now. Like Joe Rogan's trying to get him to say yes to coming back because how cool would that be? And Robert Downey Jr. agrees with him like, okay, sure, it would be kind of cool, but in reality, his tone implies it's probably going to be a long time before that happens. But what he's talking about during that conversation is coming back as the main character in a big Avengers-level movie. Like the whole plot of the movie would revolve around him. There's a big difference between that and then bringing Iron Man as a character back in a smaller role in other projects. Because the very first place we're reportedly going to see Iron Man come back in a Marvel movie is actually, if you can believe it, in the Black Widow movie. Reportedly, the way they were bringing him back in the Black Widow movies, because that movie is set in the past right after Captain America Civil War, they were supposed to use some deleted scenes from Civil War that they filmed with Robert Downey Jr. in new context with the Black Widow character, so it would have felt like brand new scenes, but in reality, it's really just footage that Robert Downey Jr. shot a long time ago. Number 3, the Marvel What If episode that Jeff Goldblum is talking about when he's referencing Iron Man was the Thor Ragnarok episode. Earlier this year, after Jeff Goldblum did this interview, there was a report that came out claiming that he had been mistaken when he was talking about Iron Man being in that Thor Ragnarok episode, but Kevin Feige said that they were doing one What If episode for every single MCU movie, and there are only 10 episodes in Season 1 of the What If series. That's going to start next summer, too, for those of you wondering when the episodes are actually coming. So all the Marvel movies so far won't even be covered till at least Season 2 or Season 3 potentially. So if we're talking about Iron Man, MCU, What If episodes for the 3 different Iron Man movies, not counting any of the Avengers What If episodes that they'll do for those movies, they just didn't have Robert Downey Jr. under a new contract to come back for the episodes when it was time to announce the series. So it just means that it'll probably be a while before we see the Iron Man Marvel What If episodes, and they're just going to hold out to try and get Robert Downey Jr. to come back. Number 2, there are a couple major Iron Man What If moments from the movies and the comics that they've teased before and are perfect What If stories, the biggest one being the Avengers Infinity War deleted scene of the Iron Mage in Dr. Stark, Sorcerer Supreme. No joke, they actually filmed this scene, but it wound up hitting the cutting room floor during the edit. But during Avengers Infinity War, when Iron Man and Spider-Man go on board Ebony Maw's Q ship to save Doctor Strange and the Time Stone, what was supposed to happen was Iron Man uses his nano armor to cover Doctor Strange, protecting him from Ebony Maw's needles, and the armor looks like this on him. Notice that instead of the arc reactor in the middle, the armor forms around the Eye of Agamotto in the Time Stone. And when he was like that, they called him the Iron Mage. And after this happened, because Iron Man is defenseless and he was saving Doctor Strange, the Cloak of Levitation, which is sentient, does him a solid, forms around him, and levitates Iron Man down to the floor as they both fight off Ebony Maw wearing each other's armor. There was also some footage of this during the trailers that Marvel released before Avengers Infinity War came out. When something cool like that happens and it winds up being a deleted scene, sometimes Marvel will try to use that idea in a new movie and they don't want to spoil that. Like we have Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness coming up. Kevin Feige revealed that we'd see alternate versions of main MCU heroes. It would be really cool if they tried to include that Iron Mage twist during Doctor Strange 2. There's even a whole Marvel What If comic book based on that concept. What if Iron Man became Sorcerer Supreme? It doesn't end well for him in that story, but he winds up weaving together a lot of tech and magic to create this cool magical armor with a lot of spells auto-programmed into it to go fight big demons. And if you're not a big comic book reader, that is exactly what Doctor Doom does. He's a man of science, just like Iron Man, but also a man of magic, just like Doctor Strange. He's like an evil version of Iron Man, who's also a really powerful magic user, so that is why I'm really excited for MCU Doctor Doom. But number 1, all the big Comic-Con and Marvel Phase 4 schedule changes that they just announced. So next week is Comic-Con, but Marvel Studios is supposedly skipping it and they're going to do their own thing later this year. It's not that big of a deal though, they'll start releasing trailers and everything later this summer and the fall. The next big schedule change, though, is for Falcon and Winter Soldier. Marvel just confirmed that it's been delayed a little while. Now it's coming out sometime in the fall. The fall season starts in September, so that means that's the earliest that Falcon and Winter Soldier could start. Reportedly, Marvel is going to confirm all that schedule stuff pretty soon, so don't worry too much about that. Black Widow has not changed yet, though. It's still supposed to come out in November, but New Mutants is actually supposed to come out in August. They might change that to a video-on-demand release. They're doing a Comic-Con panel next week for that movie, so if they announce anything, of course I'll do a video for it. But everyone, let me know in the comments, how do you want them to bring Iron Man back in Marvel Phase 4 without having to bring him back to life? Congratulations, Matthew Smith, you're the giveaway winner from my last big Marvel video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your contact details. Everyone click here for that really cool video of Superman Henry Cavill building himself a superhero gaming PC for the first time. And click here to learn how Marvel is supposedly bringing Thanos back in future Marvel movies. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. I'll see you guys tonight.